Today wasn't supposed to be extraordinary. There were no grand state ceremonies, no glittering banquets, no historic announcements from Buckingham Palace. It was listed on the calendar as a routine royal engagement, the kind the public sees almost every week. And yet, something about today felt different. When Prince William stepped forward, dressed simply, composed as always, there was a quiet weight in the air. The cameras clicked, the crowd leaned in, and for a brief moment, the future King of Britain didn't just look like a royal figure carrying out duty, he looked like a man carrying something deeper, something personal, something meaningful. Today's appearance by Prince William wasn't about pageantry, it wasn't about headlines, it was about connection, about resilience, about responsibility in a time when the world feels uncertain and the royal family continues to evolve. What unfolded over the course of this engagement reminded many why Prince William is increasingly seen not just as a future monarch, but as a steady, grounding presence for a modern Britain. And by the end of the day, one quiet gesture, one carefully chosen sentence would spark conversations across the country. This is the story of Prince William's meaningful moment today.
Prince William arrived early in the morning, greeted by local officials and community leaders. The event was centered around mental health awareness, a cause close to his heart and one he has championed for years. Mental health is not new territory for the Prince of Wales. Through initiatives like Heads Together and countless engagements, he has consistently worked to break stigma and encourage open conversation. But today's visit felt different. Perhaps it was the recent challenges faced by the royal family. Perhaps it was the visible maturity in William's demeanor, a calm, grounded confidence that speaks of years of preparation. Or perhaps it was simply the sincerity in his eyes as he spoke to young volunteers and families gathered at the venue. He didn't rush. He didn't deliver a rehearsed speech and leave. He stayed, he listened, and people noticed. When Prince William finally stepped up to address the room, the tone was not formal or distant. It was personal. He spoke about the importance of support systems, about how strength is not defined by silence, but by seeking help. He spoke about community, about kindness, about the responsibility each person carries to look out for one another. At times, he said gently, we all need someone to remind us that we are not alone. The sentence was simple, but in that room, it felt powerful. He wasn't speaking as a distant royal figure. He was speaking as a father, as a husband, as someone who has experienced public grief, pressure, and expectation from a very young age. And for many watching, it felt like a continuation of the legacy of his late mother, Princess Diana, a reminder that compassion has always been central to William's approach to royal life. After the formalities ended, Prince William moved through the crowd. He knelt to speak to children, he shook hands warmly, he asked questions, real questions, and listened closely to the answers. One volunteer later shared that William spent several minutes discussing their personal journey with anxiety and how community programs had helped. There were no cameras hovering close at that moment. It wasn't staged, it was simply a conversation between two people. That authenticity is something that continues to define William's public role. Unlike older generations of royalty who maintained greater distance, William's style is modern, approachable, grounded, quietly empathetic. Today reinforced that perception. As heir to the throne, Prince William's responsibilities are immense. The monarchy itself is navigating a period of transition. With King Charles continuing to shape his reign and public scrutiny constantly surrounding the royal family, William stands at a pivotal point in history. He represents continuity, but also evolution. Today's appearance reflected that balance. He honored tradition through his presence and duty, but he also embraced modern concerns, mental health, community engagement, open dialogue. It's a careful line to walk, and increasingly, William seems comfortable walking it. Social media lit up shortly after clips of his speech circulated. Many praised his sincerity. Others noted the steadiness in his voice, a tone that felt reassuring during uncertain times. Commentators described the engagement as subtle but powerful. It wasn't dramatic, it wasn't headline shocking, but it mattered, because in a world saturated with spectacle, quiet consistency can be profoundly impactful. While today focused on public service, it's impossible to separate Prince William's role from his family life. As a father to 3 young children, Prince George, Princess Charlotte, and Prince Louis, William often speaks about building a world where the next generation feels supported and understood. Observers noted that when discussing mental health, he referenced the responsibility we all share for our children's futures. It wasn't political, it wasn't controversial, it was deeply human. And perhaps that is what made today's moment resonate so widely.
There is always an undercurrent when Prince William appears publicly, a quiet memory of Princess Diana's legacy, her compassion, her willingness to connect, her understanding that vulnerability can be strength. William has never tried to replicate her, but moments like today feel like a natural extension of that legacy, updated for a modern era. At the same time, he is clearly carving his own path, measured, steady, intentional. As the engagement concluded, one final moment caught the attention of those present. Before leaving, William turned back toward a small group of volunteers and thanked them again, not from the podium, not through a microphone, but directly, quietly. It was unscripted, a small gesture, but one that underscored the tone of the entire day. This wasn't about optics, it was about acknowledgement, and that acknowledgement is what people carried home with them.
Today showed a leader growing more confident in his voice, a future king comfortable discussing modern challenges, a public figure balancing duty with humanity, a man aware of the weight of expectation, but not overwhelmed by it. The royal family is often associated with ceremony and tradition, yet the most meaningful moments are often the simplest. A conversation, a sentence, a pause. Today was one of those moments.
In years to come, historians may look back at major milestones, coronations, state visits, global events. But sometimes the true measure of leadership isn't found in grand ceremonies. It's found in quiet rooms filled with ordinary people. It's found in the willingness to listen, in the courage to speak gently about difficult topics, in the steady presence of someone who understands that monarchy in the modern age must be rooted not just in tradition, but in empathy. Prince William's meaningful moment today wasn't dramatic. It wasn't explosive. It was steady. And in a world that often feels anything but steady, that may be exactly what people are looking for. As he left the venue, waving briefly before stepping into his car, there was no triumphant music, no grand proclamation, just a sense that something important had happened. A reminder that leadership can be quiet, that strength can be compassionate, and that sometimes the most powerful moments are the ones that don't shout, but simply speak. And today, Prince William spoke, not as a distant royal figure, but as a future king who understands the value of connection. That is why this moment mattered. That is why people are still talking about it. And that is why, in its quiet way, today may be remembered as something far greater than just another royal engagement.